You're required to give the officer your driver's license, your insurance card, and your registration paperwork, and that's all. When the officer asks you where you've been, you don't have to tell him. When he asks you how much you've had to drink, you don't have to tell him. That's the law. You need to identify yourself and provide proof of insurance, and that's it. The officer's going to ask you to do some field sobriety tests. He's going to tell you they're voluntary. But I've got news for you. Those tests are designed for you to fail. They're designed for you to give up the evidence necessary for the prosecutor and the officer to convict you and for the judge to sentence you potentially to jail. Do you have to take those tests? Well, let's think about it. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You're on the side of the highway. Maybe it's raining. Maybe it's windy. The officer's going to ask you to do a walk and turn on a white line on the side of the roadway. He's going to ask you to touch your nose with your index finger and do the ABCs from D to Z. Do you think those tests are designed to prove that you're not drunk or to prove that you are drunk? Of course, you know the answer. That's their job, and that's what they're trying to do, is convict you. Don't think there's quotas? Of course there are. Take a DUI task force officer that stops writing DUI citations. He or she will be working security in about 3 weeks. They're out there to make cases. Don't you be one of their cases. If you give a breath test or a blood test, you need to be under 0.08 grams %, or that is like a fingerprint. It's going to convict you of DUI. The officer is going to tell you that if you don't do the breath or blood test, that you could lose your license for up to a year. He's technically right. But if there was not probable cause for the officer to pull you over, if there was not probable cause for him to believe that you were impaired and a drunk driver, then we can beat that, save your license, and potentially win the DUI case. But I will tell you, if you give that blood sample and that breath sample and you are over 0.08%, that is a lock-shut conviction against you. That is like a fingerprint. It is going to be come into evidence, it's going to be used against you, and a judge is going to sentence you to DUI. There are so many ramifications from a DUI conviction. Let's first start with the easy ones in court. There's jail time, community service work, fines and court costs, probation, maybe even alcohol and drug treatment. What about those other ramifications to your life? Could you lose your job? Of course you can. If you have a professional license, nursing degree, a teacher certificate, a pourer's license if you work in a bar or a restaurant, you may not be able to renew that. Real estate agents, doctors, lawyers, other professionals have a problem with their licensing if they have a DUI conviction. Let's say you have a corporate car or drive in pursuit of your employment for your employer. They may take that vehicle away from you. You may lose your job because of the insurance problems. Every client asks me, is a DUI conviction going to impact my insurance rates? And the answer is absolutely yes. It may, in fact, cancel your insurance. I often tell clients, my attorney's fee for this case is worth it just alone in saving the insurance increases that you will suffer if you are convicted from a DUI. First thing we're going to do is attack what's called probable cause. The police officer has to have a legitimate constitution and legal reason to pull you over. I'm here to tell you that quite often that's not the case. What the officers are doing is pulling over cars after midnight that are in areas where there's restaurants and bars, and then they're going to find out whether or not they think you're drinking and driving. They're trying to shoot fish in a barrel. What we need to do is start building your case immediately. Let's go back and talk to the folks you were with that night, your friends or neighbors that were at the bar or restaurant with you, the bartender, the waiter, the waitress. Let's get under oath statements from those people to say, I was with him, he only had 2 drinks. He wasn't drunk, he wasn't impaired. If he was, I wouldn't have let him drive. That is excellent evidence for use in trial. Let's go back and look at that videotape that was taken in the police officer's car of you doing those field sobriety tests. And let's see where the officer has inflated or exaggerated in his report the actual test results that are shown on the videotape. The videotape doesn't lie. And often a jury will ignore the police officer's testimony and report and focus on the videotape as if they were there that night. That is an important piece of evidence, and we will immediately obtain that videotape and audio tape record and break it down frame by frame here in my office. Additionally, let's start to put together a profile of you, your employment record, your educational background, your driving history, to show the prosecutor that this is a mistake. You're not a drunk driver. You're not a criminal. You're a good person, a good citizen, a good driver who is being careful. And what we have here is an officer trying to meet his quota.